Hello, everyone. This is PamelaTopjian, and obviously I'm not at home. It's a different background today, but I wanted to get a video out to you about regret and shame. I'm not going to solve any of your problems here today, but just some different mindset shifts, maybe some different ways to think about it, some things that maybe will help in your healing process, hopefully. So you don't live a full life without having some sort of regret in your life and having some sort of shame. Now, I want to say about regret, I have often said, and I still fully believe, that I wouldn't be who I am today without all that I've been through. And this is including things that I had absolutely no choice in, like childhood things or things that happened to me, but also decisions that I made that maybe have hurt others along my path. Maybe were not the best decisions for my loved ones or for myself. So some of those things is where you have regret and where you have shame around because you wish you had done something different. Because in hindsight, you realize different choices or decisions that you had that you could have done differently, if that makes sense, and would have been a better outcome for everybody. But I have said several times, I love myself now. I love my life now more than ever before. And I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be who I am, and I wouldn't be here in my life if all of that didn't happen. So along the path, there's rocky roads. There's sometimes some deep, dark holes that we find ourselves in. We claw ourselves back out, right? And all of that is really hard, right? It's really difficult, but we don't get through life without having some of those cliffs that we come up to the edge or even fall off of. We don't always have a smooth path. There's going to be rocks in our path and dips and valleys and whatever else, to use the analogy of the literal path for our life path. But you don't go through life without coming up with some of those. I've used the analogy of a hothouse flower, which is really just a flower that has grown up in like a greenhouse, like a hothouse that everything is controlled and taken care of. And then it can't weather the storms once it gets out in the real world. So unless you have grown up and had your adult life even be like that hothouse flower, then we don't make it through without some sort of shame and regrets. It's normal. And it's not something that you should hide away. And most of us do. That's what shame is we feel like we're less than, we're not good enough, we're trying to be a good person when we know we've got these awful things in our past. So we're shameful about it. But it really helps to lift that weight because it feels heavy. And it not only can cause like mental issues and maybe depression and that, but it also can cause physical health issues if you don't work through it a bit. So it helps to lift that weight if you talk about it. There's so many memes and little sayings, and I know I've said it myself, but to let it go, and there's like cute little things, people holding balloons and letting them go, right? It's not as easy as just opening your hand and letting it go, but it's a pretty good analogy for letting things go. But you can't just let it go. And you can't just sweep it under the rug and not talk about it and pretend it didn't happen. You have to process through. Processing through looks different for different people, depending on what resonates with you. And not to plug the podcast again, but I think it's a great resource for finding these things that will help you on your self-discovery journey, in your healing journey. Holistic Connections, Conversations with Holistic Practitioners is my own podcast. It's on podcast platforms, and it's also in a playlist. So look at the playlist tabs for Holistic Connections, and there's all kinds of different types of energy healing, different type of charts and readings that people can do, and different types of techniques that people can process through things with you or help you to process through things that can help you if you're unable to or unwilling to go for therapy, or if you've tried therapy and you still are not really getting the results that you feel like are helpful for you. But also for me, through therapy, being able to connect those dots, being able to piece in those puzzle pieces, making it fit, understanding why things happened the way they did, whether you're connecting the dots between a relationship with a parent compared to a relationship with a child, or whether you're connecting the dots of what happened in childhood and where your emotional state was compared to, what you were going through at the time, how those things relate, and knowing statistics, knowing that there's a much bigger picture than just you. And maybe statistically, people that go through this end up doing this. And so you realize, oh, I was just a statistic. Things were stacked up against me anyway. So of course, this is how I responded, and wasn't the best moment in my life, and it wasn't the best decision or reaction that I had in my life. But it happened, and you can't go back and just let it go. You have to process through it. If you can understand things in a broader perspective, a lot of times that will really help. It helped me, and I think that it would help a lot of others for that as well. Also, knowing that you were a different person, you have learned and grown through those mistakes and through those choices that maybe affected you and maybe even loved ones and people that you cared about in a negative way. So you were a different person back then. Now you know better in hindsight, and that's why you have shame and regret, because you know better. Just like that Maya Angelou quote, when you know better, you do better. So you have to give yourself some grace and know that you've learned through your mistakes. That's what mistakes are for. Learning through them, gaining wisdom and knowledge and experience. And maybe you're going to go on to help others going through something similar through your own poor choices that you've made in your past. Maybe you will go on to help others going through some of those same things if people are open and talk about it and allow themselves to be vulnerable, right? You only did what you knew how to do from the limited experience that you had back then, whatever it was. And you have to give yourself some love. And even if it's regression therapy or visualizations, you can go back and write a letter to your past self, or you can look at a photo of yourself from the time that you are most regretful from and have a conversation with yourself, or visualize that, or even just visualize giving that past self a hug, telling them that you understand why they made those decisions and choices, or letting them know that there were bigger things that were working against them. And of course, they made those mistakes because there was a much larger thing going on energetically and in their lives at that time. So giving yourself that grace, giving yourself that love. This may sound a little hokey, but one of the things that I really love is, those nesting dolls. And there's a big one, and a smaller one, smaller one, small. They all live inside each other. So if you can picture sort of the biggest nesting doll being who you are now, and either painting the inside of it gold or a bright white, like an iridescent white maybe, to send and infuse that light and that love through to all the other nesting dolls that are smaller and smaller and smaller, the other versions of you. That can be really a nice and warm, sort of loving feeling that you're sending to or infusing into the other parts of yourself. And that's not going to heal everything in your life, and it's not going to make you feel like everything's okay, but it doesn't hurt. It kind of makes me feel a little better in the moment if I'm sort of starting to ruminate or starting to feel triggered. So if you can realize that you wouldn't be who you are today, you wouldn't be in your life that you are right now if it wasn't for everything that came ahead of you. And just the fact that you're in the position of wanting to work through any regrets or any shame that you have, that shows that you're in a good spot. You know, it shows that you're interested in healing and interested in getting better. And just that mind shift alone is going to help you. And eventually, your triggers will turn into just memories, and you won't ruminate. You'll notice you're not ruminating about them. You'll notice that you're not waking up thinking about it. You're not waking up in the middle of the night thinking about it, or unable to go to sleep starting to think about some of these things that you have regret or shame around. Hopefully this has helped you some. And if you liked the video, and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And thank you so much for sharing this time and this space with me. Thanks. Bye-bye.